God does not only show up in burning bushes, he shows up in barley fields, in temple doorways, in the dark beside a sleeping man's feet, in the voice of a boy who does not yet know whose voice he is hearing. This week he showed up in all of those places, and in a parking lot, and a kitchen at 2 in the morning, and in the fourth row of a church, in the present tense of a single word. Sunday. So, week 14 reflection, where the quiet things happen. Ruth and 1 Samuel are very different books. Ruth is 4 quiet chapters set in harvest fields and city gates and threshing floors. The biggest miracle in it is a sandal removed and a genealogy that ends with David. No plagues, no parted waters, no fire from heaven. 1 Samuel opens with a barren woman weeping at a temple, moves through an ark captured and a god knocked headless on his own floor, and arrives at a king chosen, then found hiding in the baggage on the day they try to crown him. Different registers, same God. Working in the extraordinary and the ordinary at once. Never confined to one mode. Never finished with one person because he is already beginning with another. That is what this week has been about. Ruth is the Bible's clearest portrait of God working through ordinary faithfulness in unheroic circumstances. Nobody parts a river in Ruth. Nobody defeats an army. Nobody hears an audible voice from heaven. What happens in Ruth is this. A woman makes a loyal choice on a road. A man notices a gleaner in his field and leaves grain in her path on purpose. A mother-in-law reads a situation and gives wise counsel. A man at a city gate removes a sandal. Small things, ordinary things. Things that look from the outside, like decency and kindness, and one woman refusing to go home. But underneath every ordinary act is a thread God is pulling. The field Ruth wanders into is not random. The man who owns it is not accidental. The sandal removed at the gate is not merely a legal transaction. God is writing a genealogy. He has been writing it since Abraham. He will not finish it for another 1,000 years. Every small act of faithfulness in Ruth is a stitch in something none of the characters can yet see. They do not need to see it. They just need to be faithful in the field they are standing in. Where in your life is God asking for ordinary faithfulness rather than extraordinary heroism? What field are you standing in that might be less accidental than it appears? Naomi calls herself Mara, bitter, empty. The Lord has brought me back with nothing. She's not wrong about what she has lost. 3 funerals in 10 years is not a small grief. The life she left Bethlehem with is genuinely gone. She is not being dramatic. She is naming what she can see. What she cannot see, what none of us can see from inside our own loss, is what is walking beside her. Ruth is beside her. Boaz is ahead of her. Obed is coming. The emptiness is real, and the emptiness is not the whole story. Both things are true at once. The grief is not erased by the redemption that is coming. The redemption is not blocked by the grief that is present. Somewhere this week, in the 4th row, a woman heard the word restores and felt the first small shift after a long season of calling herself empty. Restores. Right now. While you are still calling yourself Mara, what loss have you named so thoroughly that it has become your identity? What would it mean to hold grief and restoration together rather than waiting for one to finish before the other begins? Ruth had every right to go home. Orpah went home. Nobody blamed her. The text does not judge her. She made the reasonable choice, the sensible choice, the choice that gave her back everything familiar. Ruth made the other choice, and the other choice cost her everything familiar. Her language, her people, her gods, the neighborhood she grew up in, the graves of her family, the food she knew how to cook, the festivals she had celebrated since childhood, all of it left on the road to Bethlehem. She did not make this choice because she could see what was coming. She made it because she had decided that Naomi's God was real, and that loyalty to that God, expressed as loyalty to the broken woman beside her, was worth more than everything she was leaving behind. That is faith, not the faith that sees the outcome before it commits, the faith that commits before it can see anything at all. Amara left everything familiar for a city where she knew almost no one, following a prompting she could not fully explain, singing words as a question for 8 months before she decided they were true. That is the same road, different century, same choice. Where is God asking you to make the Ruth choice, to commit before you can see the outcome? What familiar thing are you holding on to that loyalty to God might require you to leave on the road? Hannah prayed silently, lips moving, no sound. She was not performing. She was pouring her soul out before God. The grief was too deep, too specific, too old to go anywhere else. The priest thought she was drunk. He was wrong. She was the most honest person in the building, stripped of performance by years of pain that had not been answered. And God heard every word. Not after she cleaned it up, not after she found the right language, while she was still pouring, while it was still raw, while the priest was still wrong about what he was seeing. Grace sat in the back of a church she had never entered and read words off a screen about not being alone. There, in that room, she felt the edge of a fear she had been managing with calendars and questions for the oncologist. That is Hannah's prayer. Different building, different century, same rawness, same God listening. The prayer that breaks open is not the polished one. It is the one that escapes before you can edit it. The one you type into a contact form at the end of a service you almost did not attend. I was here today. I am going through something hard. I don't know what I believe anymore. Is there someone I could talk to? God heard that too. What prayer have you been editing before you pray it? Keeping it clean enough to feel acceptable? What would it look like to pour it out unedited, lips moving, no sound, nothing held back? Samuel heard his name and mistook the source. 3 times he got up. 3 times he ran to Eli. Not because he was stubborn, because the voice was new. He heard something real before he knew how to recognize it. That is often how it begins, not with clarity, with interruption. A voice in the dark, a stirring you cannot explain, a sense that someone is calling and you are not yet sure from where. Eli, for all his failures, gives Samuel one clean instruction. Go back and listen, not figure it out, not force it. Listen, and when the voice comes again, answer it. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. That is still the posture, not mastery, not certainty. Availability. Some of the people reading this have heard something, a prompting, a question that will not leave, a name that keeps returning, a door that keeps appearing. You do not need to understand everything yet. You do not need to have language for it yet. Go back. Be still. Listen again. And when it comes, answer. What has God been saying to you that you have not yet answered? What would it look like this week to be quiet long enough to hear it again? Next week, 1 Samuel 13. Through the end of 1 Samuel, Saul's kingdom rises and falls. David is anointed in secret. A boy walks onto a battlefield with 5 smooth stones. And the man after God's own heart begins the most complicated chapter of his life. See you then.